Hello everybody and welcome back to Ultimate Sims Guides and welcome to another review of The Sims Sparked. This is the second episode we are doing in this series, of course, because the second episode just came out today on YouTube or on Friday on TBS. If you want to watch the first episode, you can definitely click the link in the description to watch that. It actually did a lot better than I expected it to for my channel. A lot of you seem to really enjoy it, and I got a few comments saying to do the next one, but not one comment saying not to, so we're going with it. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to watch the first episode as well so you kind of get more of a gist of what this series is all about. So The Sims Sparked is, of course, a Sims reality TV show that has a bunch of your favorite Simmers who all just compete in these 4 teams and are trying to win $100,000. So last week we lost Team Freezer Bunny, who was Urban Sims, Spring Sims, and D Sims. So that team has been eliminated. Unfortunately, they weren't able to finish their first video, and it was very disappointing because I loved the story, but it just broke my heart. They're gone. It's fine. It's fine. So now the teams that are left are Team Llama with Dr. Gluon, Simlacy, and X Mira Mira. We have Team Gnome with Sim Proved, the English Simmer, and Plumbella. And the final team is Team Cowplant with Lilcia, Dr. Ashley, and Steffo Sims. So the way that this show kind of breaks down is that there are 2 challenges. So we have a skills challenge and then we have an elimination challenge. So first we're going to go over the skills challenge and what happened throughout that, and then we'll go into the big challenge where someone actually goes home. So in the skills challenge for this episode, it was a parenthood themed challenge. So what they had to do is create a Sim in 3 different stages of growing up. So they were going to show the Sim as a toddler, as a child, and as a teen, and they would have different create a Sim outfits based on the child's story, and they also had to create 3 different rooms to kind of explain more of the story of this child. And the winning team for the skills challenge will get an advantage for the elimination challenge. So I'm going to break this down into each team. So the first team we're going to talk about is Team Llama. So that's X Mira Mira, Simlacy, and Dr. Gluon. Their story was about a young girl who grew up in an orphanage and had a mean headmaster named Marlene the Meanie. Eventually, the young girl, whose name was Amethyst, enters a small potion store that used to actually be owned by her grandfather and learns a bunch of stuff about being a spellcaster. And then you find out that she actually ends up killing Marlene the Meanie, and you see a coffin in her room in the future while she's stirring potions. So she decided to go a little bit evil and end up getting rid of Marlene the Meanie. So it was a really cute story. I really liked it. The build in this one was so good. Honestly, Simlacy and Simproved and Dr. Ashley are some of the best builders out there, so I'm just always so impressed with what they can do. It's ridiculous because I can't do that. My only issue with the builds isn't even their fault, and this goes for Team Llama and Team Gnome. It's really irritating that you can't paint the ceilings in The Sims 4, because in this one we had an orphanage with a bright white ceiling, and there was a mine for Team Gnome with a bright white ceiling, because you cannot paint the ceilings in The Sims 4. It took me out of the experience for a minute, and I was like, oh, you can't paint the ceilings in The Sims 4. And I thought about that instead of thinking about what they were working on, and that kind of annoyed me. But in the build, one small detail in the potion shop that I really, really liked is that they put one of those small kids' science table things where you make potions, and I thought it was really cute because someone could be working and then their child or their grandchild or whoever could be trying to be like them. I just thought that would be cute, I don't know. It's the little things that get me in the soul. So one thing that was really present in the first episode with this team was a little bit of drama between Mira and Gluon, and I know that a lot of the community hated that. They hated that they focused on that so much that they tried to make it seem like it was such a big thing when it wasn't really that big of a deal. I just feel like it was made to look worse. They did keep going with the drama angle between Mira and Gluon a little bit, but it wasn't as intense this time. And Mira made a really good point, I believe, in this challenge, where she said that the challenges are kind of more geared towards people not like Gluon, because Gluon's main thing is that he's a Twitch streamer who plays The Sims. He doesn't have time constraints as much. He can kind of just let the game guide him, but it's not the same as creating a story that has to YouTube videos are a lot harder to make concise than a Twitch stream, obviously. So it definitely makes sense. And I also believe that it makes sense that there is going to be a little bit of tension between different teammates because they want to do their best. They want to make sure that they win this competition because it is worth $100,000, which is a lot of money to anyone. That's a crap ton of money. So it makes sense that there is tension, but they only showed tension with this team. They didn't show tensions between any other team, and it seemed like everybody else was just lovey-dovey, and they just showed this. So it really irritated me. It irritated a lot of you. I got a lot of comments about it. I saw a lot of stuff about it on Twitter that it just wasn't necessary. So their actual story, I found their story very interesting, but once again, I really wish this team took it a bit further. I always want people to go deeper into the story. You don't actually know how she killed Marlene the Meanie. You don't really know a lot of the things that Marlene did. You don't know what happened to Amethyst's parents to make her end up in an orphanage. Like, I want to know more small details about her life. I need more. I always just need more. I feel like it was a great idea and a great thought process to start with, but the execution wasn't there. However, I really do think that Team Llama is starting to mesh better together and to work better together, because I would say that this challenge was their best work so far. And we haven't even gotten to the Elimination Challenge yet, which, like, spoiler alert, is their best work. So I'm really excited to see, like, growth and change and things going better for them, because I don't want this to just be like, Team Gnome, Team Cowplant are the best, Team Llama, bleh, you know? It just kind of sucked to see them kind of get crapped on in the first episode. So the next one is Team Cowplant, and their story focused on a young boy who was confused about their gender identity and chose to express themselves through fashion, which was really cool. So you see an evolution of a colorful toddler to kind of a more subdued child who's dressing like his father, and his mother had passed away, so he has a really close relationship with his father. And then you see how tight their bond is through the fact that they kind of dress alike. And as a teenager, you see them start experimenting with makeup and fashion and really, like, finding themselves through that, which I think is a really relatable story, especially in 2020. You see a ton of that, like people being able to discover who they really are because they don't have, like, the constraints of gender roles and gender identity, which is really cool. And I really liked the story. So for this team, I love that they're able to create a bunch of, like, relatable stories that are very, very, like, kind of like popular culture and, like, with the times. Wow, that made me sound like I'm 90 years old. But, like, you know, they definitely are able to relate to young people, which is really cool. The stories are definitely very, very interesting. So in their story, there is a part where the child does get, like, bullied by this girl in their class who was their best friend. And I wish that they would have gone deeper with that and, like, given a reason why they were getting bullied, if it was because of the way that they were dressed or because of the way that they are, or, like, anything like that. Like, I want to know more detail. That's literally the only complaint I have, is that I just want more detail and I want to know more at all times. So, like, if you could just, like, give me more, you know? Give me more. And that was also a point that Kelsey, one of the judges, brought up, is that she did want to know why. She wanted more detail into that situation and, like, why the kid was being bullied. So I definitely agree with her on that. So what they did is they actually made this child, as a teenager, go straight to university, because he was super smart, super excited to be in university. His dad was actually the dean, and he was able to go to university early. And I really liked this because they skipped, like, regular teen time where this kid would probably just get bullied because kids suck. What I know is that a lot of people are going to grow the most when they're in university, so it's nice to be able to see this kid be able to kind of figure themselves out. And in their little build for the university dorm, they even had one of those vanity tables from Vintage Glamour, and you see a scene where they're actually putting on their makeup, which I really, really liked. I thought that was really good storytelling and just really well done. And at the end, I love that Steph said he's discovering university and discovering himself all at once. That, like, gave me warm fuzzies, and I really, really liked it. So overall, this was a really good story. I just wish I would have known a little bit more about his backstory, but I do think that the actual evolution of watching this child grow up was really cool, because it got just, like, I just like seeing people become themselves. It just, like, makes my heart happy. And finally, we have Team Gnome, which is Plumbella, English Simmer, and Simproved. And this story actually focused on the area that Plumbella grew up. So if you watch Plumbella at all, you know that she is from Middlesbrough, and it's an old mining town who kind of got screwed over, I guess you could say, by the government in the UK, and the area ended up being pretty poor, and this was just kind of, it just sucks. And she talks about it all the time, and she really loves this town that she's from. So the fact that they turned this story into kind of the story of, like, her town, and, like, she was kind of like the story of her father growing up, which I really liked, because her dad loves her so much, and they have such a cute bond. And I can't imagine how excited Dad Bella is going to be when he knows that he's on TV. I assume he already has seen it by this point, but I can't imagine, like, his picture was on television and, like, people in America were able to watch it live on TV, which I think is really cool. And I know that he probably is very excited about that. But she was talking a lot about her town, and it, like, made me tear up a little bit, because I do watch a lot of Plumbella videos. We all know I stan, and I know a lot about how strongly she feels about this town. So in their story, they had a working class family where the dad had promised to take the son to the mines to show him how the town works and how the dad makes the money so he can better understand his community. And they grew up really, really poor. The toddler and the dad actually shared a bedroom, and it was super run down. The builds, of course, were incredible. Simproved, you are chef's kiss, beautiful, wonderful, just awesome. And then you see him kind of as an adult, and he's actually protesting against the government, trying to get more rights for the miners and make this town better, which I definitely felt, and it definitely made a lot of sense. Once again, really bugged me that you can't paint the ceilings, because in the mine there was bright white ceilings. That makes no sense. Can the Sims team just fix that, please? I know that there's actually a mod that you can use to make this happen, but it's nice when things are in the game. Also, in this, Plumbella actually had subtitles. She's the only person in this whole series who's had subtitles, which I think is hilarious. I know that anytime I watch her without headphones on, my boyfriend will be like, she's not saying words. And I'm like, yeah, you just have to get used to it and like understand the things that she's saying. But I know that some people, when they're just sitting down watching TV, would be like, what? That's an accent. I think it's hilarious that she got subtitles. She even tweeted about it. It's very funny to me. Enough about her accent and her dad. So the actual storyline, it was really cute. It was very interesting because you got to see, it was like a period piece because it was from, a couple of decades ago. It's not actually happening. You're still experiencing the ramifications of what happened, but it's not actually happening now. So that's really interesting in The Sims. The story was cute. I don't think that it really went deep enough and was interesting enough, but I will always stand Plumbella, so I just want her to like win everything all the time. That's where I'm at. So let's go through some of the thoughts I had on the judging and on the rankings for this. So the 3 teams are actually ranked this time. So we have a first, a second, and a third, and that comes into play in the next challenge. So the winner was Cowplant, with Gnome coming in second and Llama coming in third. And I definitely agree with the judging on this one because Cowplant was definitely the most thought through, and you learned the most about the character, and you kind of got to understand who the character was more than the other 2, which I really liked. I feel like their family was the most relatable, the Sims felt most real, and the build made the most sense for the personality of this child, which I really, really liked. All the other stories were really good, they just weren't enough. So just give me more. Also, the ranked judging made it more interesting because you got to see who came in second place, because before it was just like, okay, this team won, that's it, that's all you don't know who's last. Ranking it makes it more interesting for me. But it also came into play in the Elimination Challenge, which is what we're going to talk about now. So in the Elimination Challenge, each team had to use 3 packs to craft a story that was centered around supernaturals. So the judging in the skills challenge mattered because that was the spot you got for a draft of where you got to pick your expansion packs and game packs for this challenge. So Cowplant got to go first, and then Gnome, and then Llama. The 3 packs that Cowplant picked were Island Living, Seasons, and Discover University. The 3 that Gnome picked were Strangerville, Dine Out, and Get to Work. And the 3 that Llama picked were Get Famous, Vampires, and Jungle Adventure. And actually, Gnome stole the Dine Out pack from Team Llama at the last second, so I love to see that little piece of drama. They had to think on the fly, scramble, choose a different pack, and they went with Jungle Adventure instead of Dine Out. I like that. I like that kind of drama, natural drama that actually, I don't know, it's just something silly and stupid, but I enjoyed that. So then they threw in a little twist, and the host comes in and tells them that they actually have to use the character from the first challenge in the second challenge in a meaningful way in their story. I really liked this twist because it threw a wrench into a lot of the stories, but I think it really, really worked out for the teams. I think that some of them did it really, 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 really well. I think that it just made so much sense, and it completely worked, and it was so cool. So we're going to go into each of the teams in order. Okay. So the first team is Team Llama, and now their story was a little risque for The Sims 4, but it turned out incredibly. I honestly think that this is some of the best work of any of the teams in both episodes. I think that this story was so good. So the story was that this woman, Nancy, not Nancy Landgrab, a different Nancy, was an adult star who was aging and could no longer do the same thing she did in her youth, and she was obsessed with vanity. She really wanted to look young, she wanted to be beautiful, and she was terrified of growing old and aging and was getting upset with her life. So she hears about this person who lives in Salvadorada who could help her, and then we find out that it's actually Amethyst from the first story. Nancy goes to meet Amethyst, and Amethyst turns her into a vampire so she stops aging. It's like she's a 25-year-old star again. And the story actually ends with, it's as if she's walking on a new red carpet, and you see her standing on a red carpet, and there's a bunch of tombstones around because the carpet's red because she killed people. And I think that that was hilarious. Overall, this story was extremely well done. The storyline was great, the organization was great, the actual video was just incredible. They did really great voiceover work, and it just made so much sense. This has to be the best work that Team Llama has done so far. I knew kind of immediately that their team was going to win because it was so well done, it was so creative, and I had a feeling. So one thing that happened was Ex Mira Mira actually kind of took creative control over the story in this one. So it wasn't like the first episode where Gluon kind of took a lot of the creative control. Mira just kind of was like, okay, we're gonna do this. And it made everything so good. She's obviously an incredible storyteller and she has a lot of talents, and it was really nice to be able to see them all bring those talents to life. The build in this was really well done. It all made a lot of sense for the video. The editing was good. The voiceover work was good. The story was just really, really good. I'm also super impressed because they got one of the packs they wanted stolen from them at the last minute. So then they had to like come up with a different idea and kind of craft it around Salvadorada, which was interesting. And they had this Nancy character. I really, really enjoyed what they did. And I find that they used the twist to their advantage by having Amethyst, the spellcaster, turn her into a vampire and like completely change who Nancy was, but also be a big part of Nancy's story. So they just did overall an incredible job. And spoiler alert, this team actually wins the challenge, which was quite surprising considering how they came in like last place every time so far. So the next team was Team Cowplant, and the only thing I remember about their story is that there were 3 mermaids who were supposed to be kind of like the Charlie's Angels, who were kidnapping frat boys from Foxbury Institute in Brightchester, and that is pretty much the entire storyline that we were actually given. The video felt unfinished. There wasn't enough voiceover. It was unclear what was actually going on. If you didn't hear them talking about their story before, you weren't really going to know what was happening. I was just confused. I literally just sat there and I was like, did they not finish their video? Did they forget to add the voiceover? Like, what's happening? I also feel like the inclusion of their character, they won the first challenge with this incredible character, but they didn't really add much with that character. They just invited him to a party and he was there and he was hanging out. He wasn't really like in the first story with Team Llama, Amethyst was such a big part of it. This one didn't feel very like meaningful as an addition, so that kind of sucked. I'm disappointed because the actual story was really funny and it was really creative. Like mermaids kidnapping a bunch of frat boys named Chad is really funny, and it could have been executed really, really well if they just had more voiceover kind of explaining what was happening and more like talking between the characters. And it was just really visually confusing. I just remember spending the entire time watching it being like, what is it? What? Who? Okay, now it's raining? Like, I don't know. During the judging, Kelsey immediately said she wasn't even sure what happened, which isn't a good sign when you're doing something like this. Taylor Parks was right when she said that they usually go big, but this time it just didn't work for them. And Dave said that it was really hard to follow, and I completely agree with all of the judges on this one. The video made no sense unless you knew what was happening before. And finally, we have Team Gnome. So this team actually decided to use the judges of Sparked in their story. So the host, Trayvon, was a secret alien who kidnapped the judges and brought them and the child from their first story to be his slaves on planet Sixum. And Bella Goth was also there, and they were all slaves to work in their alien restaurant. So this ties into Sims 2 lore, of course, with the whole Bella Goth getting abducted by aliens, possibly, who knows, that whole mystery. And what happened was the child was small and couldn't actually be mind controlled by any of the aliens, so he was able to help them escape, and then they escaped from the aliens, and it was just super weird. There's a moment where the child from their first story had this head, I don't know what it's called, but this like decor head on as a set his head feature in the game, and he's walking down a hallway and there's red lights blinking, and they actually used Simproved as the noises. So she was literally going like, meh, and it made me laugh so hard. Like, I literally almost peed my pants. The second there was a commercial, I had to go to the bathroom because I was going to pee my pants with these noises. And you actually got to see during the creation of their story where she's making a bunch of noises and then English Simmer is standing there like trying not to laugh. It was so good. They also of course they created all of the judges in Sparked, and they did a really good job. I actually thought that they killed that. They even put Ninja in a Moschino shirt, which I thought was really funny because he was wearing a Moschino shirt at one point. The only thing I didn't like is, of course, they used Dine Out because it was working in an alien restaurant. They had Get to Work because they were on Planet Sixum and the aliens were there, but they really didn't use their Strangerville pack at all, and I think that that was a missed opportunity. I think that they could have like added the mother plant in there somehow and maybe had the aliens working for the mother plant, or maybe they were using the mother plant and harvesting it as part of the food or something silly. Like, I just think that they could have incorporated that mother plant in some meaningful way, because, you know, you pick Strangerville, you gotta use Strangerville. It's got a lot that you can use. You could use the weird plants and maybe that's what you're cooking with. I don't know. There's a bunch of things they could have done. I feel like the story was funny. The story had a good storyline. I just feel like it was really shallow and it didn't focus on getting to know any characters because they did just use the judges. So you didn't have to learn anything about the characters. You didn't have to get into the backstory of any of the characters. So it just didn't feel very deep to me, and it didn't feel as good and well-rounded as Llama's story. I will say, however, that I do believe that Gnome did better in their video. It made more sense than Team Cowplant, but those are my thoughts. Just saying. So we get into the judging, and of course, Team Llama won. Their video was genuinely so good, and I'm so impressed by this team. I love an underdog. I love seeing people improve and come from the bottom and then win something. Like, I just wanted to like cheer them on and give them hugs. It's really nice. I like an underdog story. It makes me very, very happy. And there was also a really cute moment when Team Llama won where both teams were on either side of them, and they all just kind of like had a group hug, and they were like so proud of them. And it was just like such a precious moment that I teared up a little bit because I cry all the time. It was precious. I loved it. Now, the team that came in second place was Team Cowplant, and I actually don't entirely agree with the final decision, because if you didn't know what was happening in Cowplant's video, you wouldn't have understood any of it. Like, it didn't make sense. And I really do think that Gnome had a more fun story, and the video was better made, and the build was better, but it's one of those things where you can't, like, I wasn't a judge, so I can't change it, unfortunately. So the team that did go home was Team Gnome, so Plumbella, Simproved, and English Simmer, and it broke my little heart. I was very sad. And then just a couple random thoughts. At the end of it, there was this moment where Steph started crying because Steph and Plumbella and English Simmer are like real life, like really close friends, and she started crying, and they just like all hugged a ton, and I was crying because, once again, I cry a lot. I don't know why. I really expected it, based on the first episode, to be Gnome and Cowplant in the end, and for Llama to go home this week. I really, really did. So I expected all three of them to still be there in the next episode, but that's not how the cookie crumbled. So it's really sad, but you can really see that like all these people just really love each other, and they just want to support each other, and everybody was just hugging and crying, and it was just really beautiful. But honestly, throughout this entire episode, I had a feeling that Team Gnome was going home. I found that Plumbella got a lot of screen time, and the second I saw that, I was like, this is going to end poorly for our girl. I have a feeling. It really, really sucked, but overall, I think that this episode was actually a lot better than the first one because there were less teams, so they had more time to focus on each person's story. They didn't have as much Mira and Gluon drama, which I really, really appreciated because that drama was just so unnecessary and it irritated me. You definitely saw in this episode that everybody just cares about each other, and it was just so cute, like between hugging and crying and just being really supportive. And like when someone's video's on, you see the little camera of everyone watching it, and they're just like cheering and laughing, and it's just so beautiful. And I really think that it's a good showing of like the Sims community and how supportive most of the community can be for each other. And it just like, it made me happy, and it made me really happy to be a part of this community. But anyway, guys, that is all I have for the second episode of The Sims Sparked. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you think I should make a thoughts on episode 3 video, good, because I'm probably going to do it anyway. I do what I want on this channel. We all know this by this point. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I'll have episode 1 linked in the description. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.